Are you tired of performing? Are you tired of performing? So I decided to do this message today, and I'll be honest with you, I just finished this message, and let me tell you, I thought that all the words were in the right place, but I'm gonna go ahead and try this again, and the audio wasn't working. But I'm not gonna dwell on it. I'm just gonna go back because I feel like this message is that important. So, most recently, I have been reading this book, The Seven Spiritual Laws of Success by Deepak Chopra. And I've had it for a very long time. And sometimes when a book was monumental to me in the past, I like to go back much later and read it again and see if I glean a new idea or a new awakening or a new level of expansion from the message that I didn't receive the first time because of where I was on my journey. So for this, I'm going to go ahead and read a short excerpt, and then I'm going to talk about what I mean by are you tired of performing? The experience of the self or self-referral means that our internal reference point is our own spirit and not the objects of our experience. The opposite of self-referral is object referral. In object referral, we are always influenced by objects outside of the self, which includes situations, circumstances, people, and things. In object referral, we are constantly seeking the approval of others. Our thinking and our behavior are always in anticipation of a response. When I made it to that sentence in this book, all I could think about was how many places in my life where I am putting myself out there, whether it's a conversation, whether it's just words, or whether it's a video or a book or anything like that, where my main focus sometimes is on the response of others, on the reaction of others. It's as simple as something like you put a book out there and you put a short story out there or something along those lines. And the first thing you want to do is go to the reviews and see what other people have to say. Now, mind you, there's nothing wrong with being tapped into the social environment that you are connected to. But there's another aspect of that we know is not a healthy approach to how we experience this life. When we are in object referral, we are barely operating in the mindset of how can I be the best version of myself. We are much more focused in the mindset of how can I be the best version that fits for this environment, that fits for this person, that fits for this job, that fits for this experience. We want to know how we can fit in. We want to know how we can conform so that we can make the lives of other people around us a little bit better, so that we can make other people feel more comfortable for the most part. And in making others feel comfortable, we make ourselves feel more comfortable in turn. But over time, when we continue on the path of object referral, of always being in anticipation of someone else's response to us, no matter what it is, we become tired, we become fatigued, we become exhausted, we become anxious, and we become depressed. And so many of us are wondering, and we're wandering around wondering why we feel these things on a regular basis. And the primary reason is because we are not living in the true source of who we are. We are not living in our own pure potentiality. We are not living in that space. Our pure potentiality, think about it like this. So think about a ruler. A ruler, that's 12 inches long. When you get to the 6th inch of that ruler, you're directly in the middle of it, right? When we are caught up on what other people have to say about us and we're in constant anticipation of a response, we move away from that center and we're off in other spaces. And what happens is, if you put weight on one side more than the other, or put weight in one direction left or one direction right more than the other, you become off balanced. And when you become off balanced, that's when we're doing all of these corrections to try to get back to where we're supposed to be, when truly it's not about adding things on, it's about stripping things away. It's not about going to the latest yoga class or doing the latest meditation or doing the latest breath work. While all those things are wonderful and great, they're not for recovery from performance. In order to actually feel better from performing all day and being caught up in the anticipation of the world's response to you, you have to pull back layers of you that do not coincide with what's truly in alignment for you as a person. And I'll read a little bit more. It is therefore fear-based. In object referral, we also feel an intense need to control things. We feel an intense need for external power. And some of you might be saying, well, I don't try to control things. I don't try to feel power when I'm around other people. But that's essentially what it is. When we're caught up into how people respond to us and what they have to say, we genuinely want to control what those outcomes are. If we're not in a room and we know that we're being talked about a certain way, say it's by family members or something, or say it's by a friend group, and they're saying negative things or they've created a narrative about us that's not even true, one of our primary concerns is going to be, I need to set them straight, or I would like to. And even if we don't go to the step further to jump into that environment and try to change the narrative or set people straight, in our minds, when we have a problem with it, it's because we want to have control over what people say about us, how they feel about us, how they receive us, how they respond to us. But when we're in our truest essence, that is not important to us. When we're performing, it is important to us. Because if we're putting this energy into the performance, we want to know that there's going to be an outcome. And the outcome is I should be able to control what it is people see about me, what it is they think about me, how they feel about me, and ultimately how they respond to me. I'll read a little bit more. The need for approval, the need to control things, the need for external power are needs that are based on fear. This kind of power is not the power of pure potentiality or the power of the self or real power. When we experience the power of self, there's an absence of fear. There's no compulsion to control. There's no struggle for approval, and there's no external power. I think about this when I put out material, especially when it comes to creating videos, even for this channel like YouTube. So much of what I've done in the past has been based on fear. It's been based on object referral. It's been based on whether or not an audience will receive it a certain way. And then I meander into somebody else's space and they're just putting out exactly who they are and how they feel and how they show up. And they are received very well by an audience that they're not even interested in the opinions of. They're not even in the comments. They're not even replying to anything. They're just putting themselves out there as who they are. So I think to myself, like, all of this conforming and all of this performing, it does not ultimately get you what you want to experience. Because think about it. If you're performing for everything in your life, you're trying to be the perfect wife. You're trying to be the perfect husband. You're trying to be the perfect friend. You're trying to be the perfect sibling. You're trying to be the perfect child, aunt, uncle, whatever it is, the perfect employee, the perfect business owner. You are going to receive opportunities and you're going to attract things that are matching the performance. The things that are truly connected to who you are at your essence and core, they're being smothered by the performance. And so we wonder why when we achieve certain things or we attract certain things or we have certain things in our lives, we look around and we go, oh, she's married, she has kids, she has the perfect career, she has a beautiful vehicle, they have an amazing house, they go on vacations, blah, 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 this time's a year. But if it is not truly who that person is at their core, if they did not truly tap into their pure potentiality to bring those things into their lives, everything that they are connected to is a performance. And eventually that performance will wear you out. It will give you anxiety. It will give you insomnia. It will give you eating disorders. It will give you headaches, migraines, depression, fatigue. And so many of us are wondering, why do I always need to repair? Why do I always need to have rest and relaxation? You're resting and getting relaxation from the performance, from putting on a show for everybody and everything, hoping and praying and banking on that they receive you a certain way. This is why I never liked job interviews. I've always been one of those people that just wanted to walk in and say, hey, I know how to do the job that you're asking for. But they're like, we want to know if you can fit in with the culture. We want to know if you gel with the team. We want to know if, what you want to know is if I perform well enough to make you all feel comfortable. That's what you want to know. If I can put on a good enough performance so that I don't disrupt the status quo in any way, shape, form whatsoever, whether that's having a different religion, whether it's being a person who's not married with kids and everybody else is, whether it's being a person who is introverted and everyone else is extroverted, whether it's being a person who is a non-drinker and everybody else likes to go to happy hour afterwards. You want to see if I can perform. And that's the type of world and society that we're living in for the most part. And it is exhausting. And I'm going to read a little bit more. In object referral, our internal reference points, your internal reference point is your ego. The ego, however, is not who you really are. The ego is your self-image. It is your social mask. It is the role you are playing. Your social mask thrives on approval. It wants to control, and it is sustained by power because it lives in fear. When we think about that, and you think deeply about this, and you think about operating in the ego, the self-image that we have is what we would like others to see when we walk out into the world, is what we would like others to receive us as. And I don't care if it's a bohemian, love, peace, and happiness, earthy vibe, or whether it's, conservative, or whether it's, weaves, lashes, and makeup, or whatever it is. This isn't crashing on anything. There are just different personas that we put on in order to go into the world. And no matter what this is, that is based in our ego. That is based in our self-image that we are creating. And while we get so frustrated and aggravated or angry and exhausted when people are having conversations about us behind our backs, or saying negative things about us, or treating us a certain way, is because they're going in the opposite direction of what our ego is. They're going in the opposite direction of what our self-image is. We don't want any crack in the facade of the self-image. And because of this, we tend to get preoccupied with living in the space of cleaning up everything, being our own little PR agents for everything that goes on in our lives, as opposed to resting in who we are and allowing that to take us from one breakthrough and one spiritual awakening to the next, and allowing that to help us attract the things in our lives that are going to be sustainable long term, that are going to be things that actually make our hearts sing, that are going to be things that make us feel good, and that actually feels like we are exactly where we are supposed to be. We are experiencing exactly what we are supposed to be experiencing at any given time. And what so much of it is, when it talks about being based in fear, is that we don't want others to be offended by us in any kind of way. But what I can tell you is one thing when it comes to performing is that the minute you turn that switch off, you're going to offend somebody. Even the performance offends people. So if your goal is to be beyond reproach, that's not going to happen. There's always going to be somebody who has to say something about something. There's never going to be a shortage of people to disappoint in this life. There's never going to be a shortage of people to disappoint in this life. And right now, I'm enlightening myself with some of this, what I'm saying, because I asked the Creator to make me a vessel for this message, to open me wide up, to crack me open and let me pour this out, because it was resonating with me so well that I'm just being enlightened as I speak. I'll read a little more. Your true self, which is your spirit, your soul, is completely free of those things. It is immune to criticism. It is unfearful of any challenge, and it feels beneath no one. And yet, it is also humble and feels superior to no one because it recognizes that everyone else is the same self, the same spirit in different disguises. So this is really, really hit me hard just now. When I thought about this, I thought about small children and how until you teach them fear, they genuinely do not have fear. Until you teach them that an adult is different from a child, they genuinely do not treat adults differently than what they treat other children. If they see something wrong or want to say something, they'll say it to an adult the same way that they say it to another child. But the adults come along and say, hey, I'm a grown person. I'm older than you. My disguise is 30 years older than your disguise. So therefore, you can't talk to me that way. And I'm not saying some of it is warranted and some of it is not, but sometimes little children are being very innocent, but they don't care about being judged until you teach them shame about being judged. They don't care about disappointing others until you teach them what disappoints you. And that's the closest we experience this pure potentiality. So if we can tap back into that childlike mindset when it comes to the very essence of who we are, then we can truly create and manifest the lives that we want to live instead of the life that somebody else told us that we should be living. So many people out here trying to recreate things that they've seen other people experience when it's truly not something that's for them. So when we take off the mask, and when we stop operating in the ego, it's not going to be 100%. When we stop operating in that space and we notice that we're doing it, then we can relax. We can actually exhale. We can actually breathe. It's essential. It's akin to sitting when you get home. Women know this. When you get home and the first thing you do is from an event or something is take off those shoes that hurt your feet if you had on shoes that expired and you were at an event way longer than what you should have been wearing those shoes, and you pull off that bra because you're no longer performing. You're no longer in disguise. You're no longer putting on the show. And if we think about all the areas in our lives that we're doing this is why we have dis-ease in our body. This is why we have, sickness. And I believe a lot of times people experience sickness and they have to take off work and leave is because they needed the break. But instead of taking the break from the performance in a peaceful and joyful and loving manner and treating themselves with love and honoring their experience and their journey, the soul is like, I'm going to take it. I'm going to take it right now. And it's going to take it any way that you allow it. And many of us are only allowing it by being sick and tired and fatigued and exhausted and full of anxiety and depression till we have no choice but to go lay down and hide from the world for a few days or so. Because we've been on for too long. We've been turned on for much too long. So where in your life are you performing? Are you tired of the performance? Do you want to get closer to tapping into your pure potentiality? Start by thinking about the areas in your life where you're not performing and how you can drag over those same mindsets and behaviors into those new areas. And if people disappear, if the opportunities go away, if the relationship doesn't work, you have to be willing to allow those things to happen so that you can get to the truest essence of who you are. But if your primary concern is the response of others, the reaction of others, if all you're doing is anticipating what other people will say about you and how they will react to you, you will never do anything worthwhile in this life. It's going to feel like it for a temporary moment, but it will quickly turn into, is this even me? Is this even something I wanted to experience? It's like when I was working a position once and this manager that I had was molding me into applying for a management position. And I was going along with it. I was wearing the blazers. I was, suited and booted every single day. I was coming into the place with the right mindset. And I was watching these videos on how to perform this idea. And because I operate so deeply into who I am in so many environments, and I don't turn it off most of the time I just keep my mouth shut because it's easier that way for me. And that's also a level of performance, but I feel like it's the most gentle level of performance because some conversations I just don't want to have in many environments. I, got prepared for this opportunity. And I got the first interview, and then I got the second interview. Then I was in the last round for the third. And when I got to the third, I was so exhausted. I was so uncomfortable. I was so fatigued with the whole process. And I thought to myself, if this was truly something that was tapping into the pure essence of who you are and what you are sent here to experience in this life, and the purpose that you are supposed to be experiencing in this life, the vessel that you are and what you're supposed to be bringing into this life, if this was really it, would I be fatigued? No, I would be excited. I would be tapping into source energy. And source energy has infinite energy. It has infinite joy, infinite contentment. I don't have to fake it or force it. When I'm sitting here doing these videos and I'm creating this content for YouTube and all, it's been a long time that I've been doing this. There's no performing or faking it when it comes to whether or not I want to do it. But like I mentioned earlier, there's been plenty of performance when it comes to whether or not an audience is going to receive something. I've spent too much time on that in the past. Spend time on thinking about whether people are going to like this or like that. And maybe if I had more conversations about they did this or they did that, and, I would get more traction over here with, that type of content. But that's not who I am. And that's not where I'm at on my journey either. So I can only bring the truest essence of who I am because that is how much I desire to be tapped into it. Before I sit here and do these videos, I say, make me the perfect vessel. Crack me wide open so that I can share this message with the world, whoever's listening, whoever needs to hear it. That's why people love like celebrities and stuff that you see sometimes, whether it's whether it's the love-hate relationship, people that are truly being who they are and they don't really care that what you think about them. Those people are magnificent to the world because so many people are not willing to do that. So many people have like secondhand embarrassment for them. And they're not even embarrassed of themselves. So why are you embarrassed for them? And we have to think about it. Why is it that way? Why do we feel that way? It's because we've spent so much time in the area of let me perform for these other people. Let me make other people comfortable and in turn make myself comfortable. And we all know what comfort zones do. You get stuck. So where in your life are you performing? And where can you shake it off? And this is the last thing I'll say. One of the areas in my life where I know I don't perform is when I go cook. One of my favorite things to do is go cook. And I was mentioning that about the people that are online that you read 3 good comments about them and then you read 3 bad comments about them in their comment section, but they're not even checking those comments. They're not even looking. They're not even interacting with an audience. They're just showing up as who they are and saying, take it or leave it. And they get access to what they truly want to experience the most in this world. And that also bothers a lot of people too, because they're not willing to do that. And so they may not know a book like this and, it's the 7 spiritual laws of success and going to, chapter 1, the law of pure potentiality. But just because you don't have a recipe, it doesn't mean you can't cook. I think about that with my own cooking. I make so much stuff and I mix and match things and it always tastes wonderful because I wouldn't eat it if it didn't 99.999% of the time. Right? My daughter's always just like, man, your cooking is so good compared to like where we've gone and been and family, this and that. And I'm like, oh, you don't need to compare it. But I mean, that's just how they feel. And at the same time, I don't use any recipes. I never did. I may go look on YouTube and see how someone gets a consistency or how something is, but I can eat food and know exactly how it was made and then go and duplicate that if that's something I want to experience. Even when I took on vegan cooking for a while, I was good at it because I knew what would improve certain ingredients. I was like, well, if I do this, then that'll work like that. And it generally worked out. I'm saying all that to say is that where in your life do you not perform? When I'm in the kitchen, I'm not performing. I'm in my purest, most clear essence of who I am. I'm zoning everything out. I'm tuned in. I'm tapped in, and I'm just doing my thing. So many athletes talk about this zone that they get in like that, where nothing on the outside, none of the objects that are on the outside actually matter. They're not worrying about winning and getting an award. They're in the zone of enjoying and doing what they're doing while they're doing it. Similar to how I feel right now with this message in this video. I'm not remotely thinking about who's going to receive it and how and whether they're going to like it or blah, 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 whatever, because I'm enjoying this message so much more than I don't know if anybody else could. Because there's nothing like telling the source, the creator, to crack you open and allow you to be a vessel so that a message flows through you and you're being enlightened as you speak yourself. So where in your life are you performing? Is it everywhere? Are you exhausted? Are you sick and tired of being sick and tired? Are you tired of performing?